Hello, everyone, and welcome to LiveAudioWrestling.com. I am here with former WWF referee. That's right, I'm saying it. WWF referee Jimmy Corderas, and we are here, Jimmy, to talk about just one of, 5 big events going down this weekend in the worlds of professional wrestling and mixed martial arts. We have the Ring of Honor pay-per-view this weekend. We have UFC with Conor McGregor, Diaz rematch. We have the Super J Cup going down. We have the NXT TakeOver special, and we have the show that we're going to talk about right here, SummerSlam.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see that the mouth still hasn't gotten the F out.
No way, never. Never.
Yeah, busy weekend. I mean, like there's, it's going to keep us up late anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have a power-packed weekend. So let's get into the SummerSlam preview here. Now, first up, the thing about SummerSlam this year, it is mammoth, not only in size and concept and attendance, but in length. We're going to be sitting through, it sounds like, almost 5.5 hours of content with this show. How does that sit with you, Jimmy? You know, from a guy that used to ref like house shows that maybe were two or 3 hours, like this is really a lot of content at once.
It is, and especially if you're a wrestling fan. And going in, like you said, into this weekend, if you're someone who is a wrestling fan of not just the WWE, of other promotions like ROH and the Super J Cup, and then you got the NXT TakeOver, like you said, on Saturday night. That's a lot. Then you got to think that going after SummerSlam, you've got 3 hours on Monday night, 2 hours on Tuesday night. So this is not just a weekend thing. This is a long stretch and a lot of content to take in. Them going to a 4-hour pay-per-view, I believe they're saying, which I'm kind of thinking it's probably going to overrun that 4 hours. Look back, i.e. WrestleMania.
Yep.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough sailing.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of content in one night. So we should get into it here because we got a lot of matches to go through. I want to start off with something that we haven't seen in quite a while, and if done properly, can actually help guys. I always think back to Chris Benoit and Booker T, and that's we're going to see a best-of-7 series between Sheamus and Cesaro. The first match. Does this even get on the pay-per-view, Jimmy, or do you think this is on the warm-up show?
I think it should be on the pay-per-view.
I do too.
I mean, the angle itself is a big angle. The the best-of-7 series have always been a big deal, whether it was in WCW, WWE, wherever it was. Some people may disagree with these two guys being in it, but I like it because you're going to get 7 matches. I'm assuming it goes the full 7.
Right.
I can't see it. I don't see a sweep here. Anyways.
Yeah.
But it's going to be hard hitting. It's going to be physical, and both guys are game for it. And I'm looking forward to it. Actually.
Yeah, I think again, if it's done properly, I think it can not only rehab Cesaro, who I think really needs it, but I think it can help Sheamus at the same time. Both guys are kind of stuck with nothing really going on at the time. People are kind of tired of Sheamus. People are upset that Cesaro hasn't got the push that he should get. So I think this could really help them. First match of the series here on the pay-per-view. What do you think?
I think it goes to Sheamus since Cesaro's been getting the upper hand lately in traditional old school booking. The guy who's got the upper hand going into the pay-per-view usually doesn't at the pay-per-view.
And also usually with typical booking in a best-of-7, you tend to let the heel get the first couple of wins under his belt to build up to the storyline, right? So,
unless they go total reverse, because we've seen subtle changes in the way the WWE's been booking things lately. What if Cesaro comes out to a 1-0-2-0 lead and Sheamus has to revert to being a total dastardly heel to get back into it? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe a different approach that way. But
could go that
again,
way.
I don't think so. I think Sheamus gets the first one.
And just quickly before we drop this, how do you like the handling of Cesaro? Because we were talking about this, how you have your kind of shoot style stuff, and then you have your stuff that's definitely fiction. Because they're kind of doing that with Cesaro, him being upset about the draft, him complaining that he hasn't got what he should have got. Is that working for you?
In this case, yes. I'm not a big proponent of the work shoot promos or the pipe bombs, whatever you want to call them. But in this case, it was a natural reaction after the draft where he genuinely looked like he wasn't happy going to Raw and wanted to go to the wrestling show SmackDown. So it lent itself perfectly into a storyline built in for him going forward on Raw. So I like that it's been incorporated that way and not over the top, like total I'm shooting right now, which means like the rest of the show is
not worth your attention.
Right.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. Okay, moving on here. This match, I think, would actually be a good pay-per-view opener, and I'm totally looking forward to it. And that's Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens against Big Cass and Enzo. I'm just loving Jericho and Owens together. They're like such a great heel team. What do you see playing out in this one? Because I see a couple possibilities.
Yeah, on the Jericho or Y2
Jericho, I think,
or Y2KO, whatever
Right.
you want to call them. They're my new favorite duo. I mean, these guys are totally entertaining from a comedic standpoint.
Yes.
Their timing is perfect, and you work with a lot of people in the comedy and entertainment industry, like Jason, and to have that perfect timing.
Yes.
I had this,
Important.
not the name drop here, but I'm going to do it anyways. I had a conversation with William Regal one time, and we talked about comedy and wrestling.
Right.
And when done correctly, has a place in wrestling. When
Yeah.
it's not done correctly, obviously it sucks. And I know the old adage, funny doesn't draw money, but it does have a place. And what these guys are doing is to me, really comedic gold, and it is working. But I could see they're trying to cause dissension among Enzo and Cass, but I think the dissension is going to be Jericho and KO.
Yes.
They're not going to get along as...
Yeah, I kind of, that's what I see happening here, too.
Yeah.
I see that those guys are going to get in some sort of disagreement. It's going to cost them the match. I think Enzo and Cass should go over anyways.
Yeah.
They're the new guys. They're the guys that are hot with the fans right now. And then, I mean, there's been talk that Jericho's going to be leaving in a couple of months to go do stuff with Fozzy. I could see maybe they spin off into a mini Jericho-Owens program.
That would be cool.
Something happens there, and Jericho just disappears. Owens gets the win, and Jericho just disappears for a while and eventually comes back. And I think that benefits everybody.
Yeah, I like that scenario. I think it's pretty cool to have the two Canadians go at it.
Yeah. I think they would be great. And just imagine the promos they would cut on each other.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. So that's
with what's it, Ted or Tim or whoever's doing it.
That was brilliant. Where they just changed his name every time. Brian, Steve, Frank, Joe. Yeah, no, that was.
The Nathaniel got me though.
That was very clever. That was very clever. Okay. My first title match here on the list, we got The Miz versus Apollo Crews for the Intercontinental title. I mean, I don't see much changing here.
No, I actually like Miz now. I think he's found his niche, him and Maurice together.
She just adds that amount of extra arrogance to it, I think is perfect.
Yeah, it's just, I don't see that Crews has got that connection yet with the audience. I mean, I've talked about this before where I call it strategic debuting.
Yeah.
Enzo and Cass debuted the day after WrestleMania, lent itself perfectly to that crowd, which got the reaction that you wanted, the desired reaction. Apollo Crews, not so much. You know what I mean?
It's true.
What's lost, I think, a lot now is debuting guys from NXT, the assumption that the audience will know them. And not without having the benefit of like the old days, like with the Razor Ramones, where you got weeks of vignettes
right.
and stuff like that. I think maybe that should be utilized for some talents, not for everybody, but there's some guys that you can do that with, and then you have guys like Sami Zayn, where you debut him in Montreal, and it's all good.
Everybody The thing about I think is tough for Crews is that, I mean, if this was 1975, I think he'd be awesome. He'd be the classic baby face. The fans would really get behind him and everything. But I think in 2016, it's really hard for fans to get behind that much of a clean baby face.
Exactly.
So I think that's a little bit of an issue. And I agree, he didn't really get the debut he should have as a new guy on the roster. So title change, yes, no?
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay. All right, the next title match is Rusev versus Roman Reigns for the U.S. title. I'm totally weirded out by this. I just don't understand what they did on Raw on Monday, having the actual match, not for the title, for the defending his honor of Lana, but not for the title, but they had a full-blown match. I thought for sure they were going to screw us. There was going to be no match. They had a full-blown match. Reigns wins clean. I mean... Yeah. I don't even care about the pay-per-view match now. It's very strange.
It's funny because again, here's the glass half full guy.
Okay.
Starting again, when the match was announced for Monday, I thought to myself, like everybody else, why are they giving us this match on Monday when we're getting it on Sunday? That doesn't make sense. Then after the match, I thought to myself, that was a really pretty damn good match.
That I'll give you. It was an excellent match. It was the best match on the show.
Which Rusev probably had 80% of the match on the offense, which fighting from underneath Roman Reigns, who doesn't get enough credit, I think, for his selling.
Right.
I think his selling was really, especially in this match, was really good. So I'm curious to see on Sunday if they could at least match what they did on Monday and possibly top it. And then talking about old school booking again, with Roman Reigns having the advantage going into Sunday with the win over Rusev, I don't see that happening Sunday if you go by
right. Yeah,
You know,
see, that's the part that leaves me confused. I'm not really sure where they go either. Is it just, does it end up just being more parody booking? Because, now Rusev wins at the pay-per-view. I'm not really sure.
I don't know if he wins or I really hate to see a non-finish like a DQ or something like that. But then again, if it leads to more in this feud, I think it's a good rejuvenation for Roman Reigns. I know people are considering like a step back for Roman Reigns, but it's almost not really a step back in my opinion. It's almost like let's start the ball rolling again. Let's start it fresh in a new approach with the U.S. title. And it's not a step back. It's almost like a step up for the United States Championship.
Right, and it's interesting, too. Have you noticed fan reaction so far?
Yes.
Is that they're not booing him as much, it seems, with this program with Rusev.
I have a theory.
All right, Jimmy, shoot.
My theory is they are less pissed off that Roman Reigns is at Roman Reigns because he's not in the World Heavyweight title picture. He's not in the main event picture.
Okay.
And they consider the U.S. title a secondary title.
Right.
And they're like, okay, well, that's good. We don't want him in the main event. So, but we're perfectly fine with him here.
And I think Americans just genetically have to cheer against the Rush, the foreign invader. I think it's just genetically sewed into their DNA.
If it's not, then how can you consider yourself an American?
So that's interesting then. So what do you say?
I think Rusev retains. I think Rusev retains.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to the WWE Tag Team titles are also on the line here. We got Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. Big E is still out against Luke Gallows and Karl Anderson. Before we get into this, the Doctor gimmick. What do you think? Because I love it. I love the Doctor.
Okay,
gimmick.
so then you and I are in the minority. I think because a lot of people.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people have messaged me. They say, "Oh, that's not funny." I think it's great.
Ring post-itis. I thought it was great.
I think the deadpan delivery
helps a lot.
It just makes it. I don't know.
To me, it seems classic heel.
Yeah.
It's classic heel for a heel to dress up like that, say that he knows what's going on, ridiculing the baby faces. I don't know. I think it's brilliant.
I do too, and I don't know why people are so testy about it.
Okay, well, so now the match.
Thank you. I stole that actually from Karl Anderson, so that's okay.
The match itself. Do we see a title change? I think it's time.
I think the time is right, but I'm afraid that it's going to go longer because I think Big E comes back and kind of interrupts things and gets a little bit of revenge on the club, or maybe after the. Maybe the title does switch, and that's when he comes out and gets a little bit of revenge, setting up a rematch.
It's an interesting one because they're right at the 1 year mark.
Yes.
They're like a day or two off of the 1 year title reign, because they won it at SummerSlam last year. So I'm not sure if they let that keep going. Personally, I don't think the New Day need the belts anymore. I think they're really they're solidified. People enjoy them, and I think it would be nice for the heels to have a run with the titles. So I agree. I'm hoping to see change, but I don't know.
I like the fact that the New Day is now is less goofy and a little more serious. It shows a different side to him. I don't mind the goofiness, but a little bit of a mix instead of being goofy all the time.
I agree. Ever since the Wyatt program, Xavier, he's definitely been not so much the goofball as in the past, and I do agree that helps a little bit as well. Okay, continuing on with the title matches, we have the women's title, Sasha Banks versus Charlotte, and there's no Dana Brooke at ringside.
Somehow I figure she's going to make her way out there somehow.
Yeah, you think so? Yeah.
I could just see her at ringside.
Security's pretty lax at these events.
Yeah, exactly, as we witnessed Monday night. But anyways, we don't encourage that at all. But maybe showing up at ringside with a ticket or something like that, the old school. Well, I'm allowed to be here because I bought a ticket.
Right. And so a title change here, I don't know if you should.
Too soon.
I think so too. I think Charlotte, again, great character, great heel. I think they should really build on her, and I think Sasha should chase for a while.
Yeah, and speaking of Charlotte too, she has really excelled on the mic. She's picked that game up a lot.
Yeah.
I think Sasha's needs to catch up a little bit in that department.
Right.
But I'm still waiting for Bayley, man.
Yeah. Well, we had the little tease there at the last pay-per-view, but I don't know. What coming out of just quickly, she fights Asuka at the NXT. Yes, keep getting the title back, or is she fail this time and then up to the main roster?
I see again you can't lose either way because with her as NXT Women's Champion, again that brand flourishes when she's champion.
It does.
And it's not a knock against Asuka. She's great as well.
Very talented.
I don't see her winning the title back. But then again, see, you don't know because she could be the first woman to hold the title twice, or something like that. Either way is a win-win, I think.
Okay, there you go, fans. Bonus match for you.
Except for the fact that if she does win the NXT Women's title back, does that delay her? Jump to the main roster.
I would think so. Yeah. I would think so. So there you go, bonus match. Yeah. Not even on this card. Let's get back to SummerSlam here. Okay, John Cena versus AJ Styles. What do you think about this one, especially after what they did on SmackDown, where to me, Cena came off as the complete heel in that whole presentation, beating up AJ after the match. So I don't know.
I'm pretty much convinced that they're going to have another really good match.
That's a given, I think.
And I think AJ Styles goes over again. This time without any help from the club. He gets, he gets the win. And I don't know if this continues afterwards, but at least it gives AJ Styles fodder going forward to maybe challenge whoever is WWE champion afterwards.
Yeah, he's got to get up in the title picture for sure.
I think so.
If you just look at the booking, and they love their parody booking. If you look at the last two shows, AJ won at Money in the Bank, and then Cena pinned AJ in the Battleground tag match.
Right.
So technically, it would be AJ's turn here.
Right. And
I just thought it was kind of set up weird. To me, it seemed backwards. Where I would have thought the heel would have maybe laid out the babyface rather than the babyface like really quite viciously laying out the heel, putting him through the table.
Well, but again, that gives John Cena a little bit of an edge, and maybe maybe it was designed to kind of. I doubt it's going to happen, but try and turn that Brooklyn crowd because they're going to be anti-Roman Reigns, anti-John Cena.
Right.
So maybe that by design that's why it was done that way. By the same token, though, AJ Styles has done a terrific job of as someone who gets cheered by the vast majority of the hardcore diehard fans. But he's done a great job of getting booed, kind of like Seth Rollins.
No, he's turned into a great heel, and his promo work, like. Again, seriously, it's just come out of. It seems like it's come out of nowhere, but it's super fantastic.
Yeah.
Just ever since he got here, he's been great. Okay, so that leaves us for the world title. We have Dean Ambrose versus Dolph Ziggler. Again, I was confused by this one on SmackDown because the presentation really, although I guess, Ambrose is basically a babyface. Are they turning Ziggler heel, or are they just roughing him up for this particular match?
I think it lends itself perfectly for a real good heel turn from Dolph Ziggler. Dean Ambrose is pushing all his buttons. You're not as good as you think you are.
Yeah, you got a chip on your shoulder.
Going in and really pushing his buttons. And then Dean, I still think Dean Ambrose retains. He pins Ziggler on Sunday, and then Ziggler just descends into this deep.
Right.
I want to see not just heel Ziggler. I want to see like this deep, dark,
Gets really nasty, really vicious.
Yeah, something we've never seen from him
before. Right.
Instead of being the show stealer, now he's just going to be the guy that beats the living piss out of people.
You know what? I like that too because he, as we know, there's been so many false starts with the poor guy.
Yeah.
He's super talented.
Yep.
I would love to see the guy do something that could actually rehab his character. And if a heel turn does it and they do it right, like you say, make him super nasty and vicious, that could actually rehab him.
But then again, with that certain audience, the vocal minority, as some people like to call them, they'll probably like it and cheer them. So,
that's the problem you have in this day and age, right?
It's hard. It's hard to be a good heel and get booed, and be a good babyface and get cheered.
Yeah, so. I think if the Ziggler just keeps that kind of attitude, like, man, I never got the fair shake. I'm much better than that. I think that really.
You guys want to see me wrestle? Tough.
Yeah.
I'm just going to beat people up.
Yeah,
and he's got the background
too.
And
he just turns into total brawler style.
It's almost like the Mick Foley thing where they wanted him to be hardcore and he went completely opposite.
Wouldn't do it.
And if he'd have known way back then that he'd get over with a sock as opposed to throwing himself off a cage.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Exactly. Right? Okay. Top couple. Yes, there's still more matches, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, 4 hours. Right. Okay.
Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor to crown a new champion, the WWE Universal Champion. Universal Champion, how does that sit with you? Even on the TV itself, they're making fun of the title name already.
Yeah, well, obviously, because it's Raw, it had to be bigger than the world, right?
I guess that's
I guess the
Intergalactic.
Guardians of the Intergalactic title or something like that. But not a big fan of the name, but like Joey Styles referred to this earlier. He said, people get used to it. It's it's just a name, so who cares? see, this is why I was not a fan of the world champion not being the world champion being specific to one show. I would have rather that he's the one guy
that gets to go back
and forth,
right.
And you have number one contenders from each show, and if he happens to lose the title, he goes to the show that the
other guy was from.
Okay. Exactly. It kind of dilutes the title picture now a little bit, but other than that. Interesting choice to have Finn Balor in there because, again, talking about strategic debuting, his first 2 weeks, he didn't seem to get the crowd reaction I thought he would. I mean, like, of all the people coming up from NXT where you thought, yeah, this guy, will get the reaction.
Yeah, right.
We'll get the reaction. I was kind of like, And the one night in Atlanta, I know somebody tweeted me and said, well, it's because it was the Atlanta crowd. I do some Google history on wrestling in history in Atlanta.
I know.
You're telling me that's not a wrestling crowd? Give me a break. But anyway, it just goes to show that, not everybody watches NXT. And again, the introduction, it's almost like that video that they showed where he explained the demon.
Yeah.
I would have rather had seen that
right out of the gate
prior to his to his introduction to the main roster. I think that would have introduced him again. A
series of vignettes. Yeah, you're right.
Like that, explaining the demon character, and I would have preferred not seeing it on Monday and making people wait for it. As much as we talked about the Rusev Reigns match, that I didn't have as much a problem with as I did with the demon character. I agree.
I don't think we should have seen it, or I think we could have seen it, but I didn't like the fact that they touched. I didn't like the fact that there was actual physical contact. I would have liked to have him come out as the demon and Seth Rollins just being so scared he runs away or something like that. I didn't like the idea of them touching.
Or even have him on the Tron, because they could have done something with visual effects on the Tron where it's Finn Balor. And then, maybe, you've got to, you see regular Finn Balor.
Right.
And then, you want to see the demon, I'll give you the demon. And as he lifts his head up, it transforms.
Right. Just something where you would got a reaction from Rollins, because Rollins is great at playing that chicken shit kind of heel, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's really good at that.
Exactly.
And this would have been the perfect opportunity,
I
thought, where, oh, man, I'm really scared of this guy. And he could have just ran away. Having them actually fight, I thought, oh, man, you're taking the luster off it.
I know. And
okay, so who ends up being the first? Because this is a tough one, too, because you think Finn Balor, you'd want to put him over strong, the debut of the demon gimmick. I see, if this is done right, something that replaces Undertaker as that kind of mystical character. But then you have super hot Seth Rollins too, and you want to keep him strong. Like it's tough, this one.
Yeah, that's why I'm surprised that Finn Balor was put in this spot so soon, because you almost have to give him the win here. Because if you don't, you've just killed everything you did to try and get him over as the demon character too as well.
That's the thing. The only thing I can think of is that maybe some sort of disputed finish, and the Foley and Stephanie decide, okay, and then we don't get a champion at the end of the pay-per-view, and they do a rematch. But I don't think that's
tough,
I think you got to pull the trigger now. I really do.
If you
Seth is pretty hot. I mean, would it hurt him that much?
I don't think it would. I really don't, because he's good at getting the people back on his side in a heel fashion, that is, getting people to boo him.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, you run the risk of really, really hamstringing Finn Balor if he doesn't come out of this match the winner.
Yeah, and I think you gotta go through with it, man. You gotta go through with it. So let's hope that Finn actually does end up being the champ.
Yeah, and no double pin scenarios where you have to have a rematch and stuff.
Yeah, I could see because they have so much time to fill and so many shows. I could see them doing something like that, right?
Yeah,
like, we're going to put it off till the next pay-per-view or whatever, right?
I hope not.
Okay. And finally, the match that's pushed is the main event. No titles involved in this, and really no build-up before the match was announced either. And then we had there are multiple attacks back and forth, and the promo stuff this week, Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton. Again, I think this is another tough one to book as well.
Yeah, I think this is a coin flip, because you can go either way with this one.
Yes.
This one, I actually really enjoyed the build to it, and I didn't mind the two times that they did.
You didn't think they overdid it?
No, just the fact that Orton just popped up on Raw and gave the RKO out of nowhere, and they made a big deal out of the fact that he showed up on a show he's not supposed to be on. And then Lesnar coming out, kind of returning the favor, again, being on the show he's not supposed to be at, and they're making a big deal of it. And the next week, inviting Daniel Bryan onto Raw was a little much. I think they should have just left the interaction between the two shows
guys,
there. Yeah. But the video that they showed,
that to me was the killer. That's the thing that I thought you could have done none of that other stuff and just showed that video because that was superb. Digging up all the old footage of when they were in OVW together and stuff like that. So I agree. I thought that was really good at selling it.
But as far as who wins this match, it's kind of, again, it's one of those situations where Orton's been on the shelf for 9 months, and to bring him back in his first big match is against Brock Lesnar. If he doesn't win the match, where does that go? The only thing that I will say is at the end of SmackDown this week, or not the end of SmackDown, after Randy Orton's match against Heath Slater this week, he crossed paths with Wyatt.
That's right.
Now,
whether
that's a seed planted to what happens on. Here's a scenario for you.
Okay.
Just popped in my head.
Go for it.
Stuff pops in my head. Randy does hit the RKO.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere. Brock kicks out. He goes into that place and he's setting up for the punt.
Yeah.
Just as he's ready to execute the punt on Brock Lesnar, there goes the lights.
Yeah.
They come back on. Bray Wyatt standing in the ring. Orton's out. You can't call a DQ because technically didn't see it.
Yeah,
I know I'm creative liberties here.
Yeah.
But if you didn't see him do the damage, he slithers out of the ring. Brock picks him up, F5. There you go.
That's it. Interesting.
I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
You could do. I mean, I honestly, I think you got to get back. I personally want to see Ambrose back with Brock because here's an instant program. Brock's like, look, I had the title. I was the champion. I've beaten you like twice, I think. I'm saying, that to me needs to be...
And you called me lazy?
Yeah. To me, that needs to be a program. I think that's a good, viable title program. So maybe you do something like that and Brock gets the win and then maybe he challenges Ambrose. Ambrose keeps the belt and then maybe that's the next program.
It could be, but then again, now we're crossing over. I think Brock is a Raw.
Brock is Raw. Right.
So now
that's unfortunate because I think that's a great story.
Exactly. Now maybe down the road that's another
something they can do.
Brand thing that they do where he's just, what if Brock ends up eventually as the Universal Champion and challenges?
Right.
I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so that one's going to be a tough one too. But I think as much as you think Orton should go over, I'm kind of leaning towards Brock.
With a little help. I'm going to say Brock with some help from Bray Wyatt.
Bray Wyatt. All right, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's completes our rundown of the entire show. Thanks so much, Jimmy, for hanging out with us and running down the show. Don't forget, after the big SummerSlam show, we will be live on the air, live audio wrestling, 11:30, special start time this week because they've been letting the shows go long, right? So we figured, let's get prepared for this. We're going to start at 11:30, but we're going to go all the way till 2 a.m. We're going to do a big, long show because not only, as we said, is there SummerSlam, there's Ring of Honor, there's UFC, there's NXT, there's Super J Cup. There's a lot of stuff going on this weekend, so we want to be able to cover it all. Live audio wrestling on 1050 TSN, and of course you can hear it streaming live at liveaudiowrestling.com. Thanks again, Jimmy.
No, thank you, man.
All right.